Hey there, everybody. Today we are at my friend's house and we're going to be doing a little bit of planting in her little turnaround area. So her driveway comes up and it comes along this way, and there's a circle up that way, and the roundabout comes back and out. And this little space here is pretty underutilized. She does have a few plants in here, some evergreens, looks like maybe a boxwood or an arborvitae, but we have a few plants mixed and matched in here. And so today what we're going to do is plant a few more things. We've moved some of the pots of Monarda and Clethra out now, and I have a whole bunch of rooted cuttings, straight cuttings, fresh ones, and a couple of seedling aronia that we're going to plant. And so I thought this would be fun. She's got really poor soil in this because it's a sand and hard packed driveway, and so for those of us who have, dirt roads, dirt driveways, and excess sand either from sanding or winter maintenance on roadways and things, I thought this would be a fun experience and a way to show you how we can kind of hyper focus fertility so that it helps garden spaces and gives us a leg up even in some tough conditions. So we're gonna get started, and we'll bring you along as we go. So what we've got here are some ever-bearing strawberries, a bucket with some of the collected rabbit poop from their hutches, a whole fresh bucket of charcoal that we made a few days ago. That's been soaking in an onion bag in one of the ponds that we have, and so that should be pretty well moistened and should have a whole bunch of crazy nutrient in it. And we've also brought over some 2 buckets of our compost, and in this particular bucket you can see we've brought a tricolor willow because they're gorgeous, and I didn't really have too many of my more native basket willow left, but it'll be a nice offset for the colors of foliage and things. Some ever-bearing strawberry. This is a black lace elder. I've noticed that these guys are a little bit fleshier than the native Sambucus canadensis. The black lace is Sambucus nigra. And so the native ones are a little bit firmer, and I feel a little bit more comfortable with sticking them. But let's show you guys one of the holes that we have dug. And a quick note, if you have someone coming over and they're talking about plants and they're talking about things you can do and they don't dig a hole, discount everything they've just told you. You have to dig to find out what's going on underneath. And so you can see in here, this is some tough soil for these guys to be kind of hanging out in. And so what we're going to do is we'll dig this out a little bit further for something else, and as we go we'll kind of amend, and what we can do is take loose soil from these guys and use it to hill them in as we bury them, so that they have a little bit more of a substrate and less of the gravel and rocks. But we'll take the big guys like this clean out of the way. We can stick them around the bases of some other plants to be an additional source of heat for the root zone in the early season once the snow melts, and that'll be our strategy. So the other thing that we're doing, this is what I do at every job, is I'll place out my pots as we go, trying to figure out how exactly I want things spaced and where we want to put things, because it's way easier to move them like this. And so we're adapting to where certain things are. And our Japanese maple right here, this is of a bloodgood variety. This is from my parents' tree that was planted by my grandmother, so Cyndy's family now. And we have some daisies for celebration of her mother, so I think a nice splash of different colors and different plumes of textures are going to be a real nice thing. So yeah, I'll show you guys what it looks like once we've got a few things in the ground. So Cyndy dug this hole right here, and the way that I like to measure for trees, the way that we plant things here, is I want it generally 1.5 to 3 times the size of the pot, and best practice says to put it to where the root crown is going to be at soil level. So our root crown is about 1/2 inch down in this pot, which puts us right about at the level. There's a little bit of a gradient coming this way, but because we're going to backfill this with some of this other material, when we finish this up, it's going to be a little bit higher, which will allow the roots to be considerably happier as everything grows in. So we've got some of our char. We've got some of our delicious rabbit poop that's going to come in here. There'll just be little pockets of fertility. There's some keratin from their hair and the shed. There's some duck feathers in here because they're chilling out in the duck coop. And so we'll throw some of this in here. Just nice little bits. Come in for a little bit of our compost. This is mostly just to provide just that little extra bit of carbon and a little bit of actionable nutrient to it. And we'll come in, we'll throw some of this dirt right back in, just to give it a nice little base. We got a little bit of sphagnum and what looks like a yarrow right here. You can see these guys bipping and bopping along. So I'm going to set these aside and throw them back in and cover it up. Let them be kind of a gentle, suggestive understory for this tree.
Run.
Awesome. So once you've got your tree out of the pot, stick it in your hole, make sure that things are going to be at a good level. Because of the pitch and because of tamping down this soil, really what I'm looking for is a way to ensure that this guy is pretty much at this point. I'm probably going to scoop a little bit more under here just to lift it that little bit more. But you guys can see, maybe, we have some of the feeder roots running, and while there is a little bit of circling, you can see how loosely they are, and they haven't constricted everything. So this tree, once it's in the ground, is going to have an easier time spreading outwards, which means that we don't have to go crazy chopping it with our soil knives or anything like that. We can just kind of plant it nicely, lift it up a little bit, give it a nice position. Some people may judge for putting some leaves underground, but all of that is going to be broken up well before spring. And so now, when we bring this guy in, we can see that little bit of lean, but as we fill in, we'll get it nice and strong. And in order to ensure that this guy grows straight or straighter, what we're going to do is put the leading tip facing away from the sun, kind of this direction. That's kind of north-ish. And so as this tries to chase the sun, it's going to necessarily kind of grow back out this way and fill in a more columnar way than we would otherwise see. So just a little bit more right in here. You can use buckets or tarps to save your soil, and if it was, you know, a crucial thing for you, you can do that to kind of make this process a little bit quicker. But I really enjoy hanging out with Cyndy, so we're not gonna complain. It was a lot of fun. I don't get to garden with my friends very often, and so now that we have this squared away like this, you can see that our main stem, main crown of the tree, is right about here. You can see this is the topmost of the crown, and so this will be perfect. And we're going to just start filling back in with all of this stuff.
Okay.
And so as we fill this back in, it's important to remember that, yeah, there's a little bit of this carbonaceous material, and it's true that many plants don't like pushing through huge changes in the consistency of the subsoil. With the amount of snow that seems like it gets piled up here and the amount of sand that probably gets deposited as well, I have a sneaking suspicion that this will be well hydrated and well worked by the soil microbe community. And we are taking a moment just to kill some of the Japanese beetle grubs that we're seeing in the soil, getting ready to go dormant for the winter. My hands are already covered in rabbit poo, so it's not like it's a big deal. And so we're gonna just fill this guy back in and top it off with a little bit more compost. And I think my plan is to take the sphagnum moss and some of the yarrow and just kind of make it a nice little, let it continue going. So yeah, we're gonna pause here and we'll show you what this looks like in just a minute. More quackgrass. I'm like really picking these good spots here. How many are in here? Oh my gosh. Look at you. We'll stick you two together. You guys can be buddies. Are you filming still?
Yeah. That was cute. A little conversation.
So one of the important things when you're doing this and you have such fine root hairs is to make sure that when you're tamping down, when you're pressing these guys in, that you're not really digging with the tips of your fingers. I wouldn't use the first like third of your fingers. Try to have like a flat palm, something that goes around them, so that you can come at it from a couple of sides, but you're not pushing directly on where the roots are, because they are frail enough at this stage of development where you could break them off, and that's just extra energy that the plant has to spend to recover and to rebuild those cells. So the more gentle you are when you do it, the easier things are going to be. And one of the things that I will note is these are about 5.5 feet away from the first one that we planted, because these guys do kind of fill in. They'll have a few additional stems that will come up, and so you can plant one or two together if you want to have it a little bit more thicker more quickly, or if you feel that they're very small and you want to try to bank up the amount of material that you're planting in. But give them space, because otherwise you're going to be fighting when you go to maintain the area, and that's going to be more of a pain than most folks want to deal with. That can be the real challenge. And so, just because I know what my pace is, that's definitely a hair and a whole bunch of dirt in my mouth. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey folks, we are back. It looks like nothing has been planted because it's autumn and we're planting bare root and cuttings, but let me show you a few of the things that we have planted. So we have some elders in here. We looked for spots that were supporting some other wet-loving and richness-loving plants. The lamb's ear is a good indicator for something with a little bit of fertility and enough water that the elders should be able to get established. In here, we've also done in some strawberries at the bases of some of these other plants. We have an older hydrangea and some lilacs. And so an everbearing raspberry, it's about 3 to 4 feet in from the edge of the driveway, and we've got a little strawberry as the understory for it. And as we make our way back, I realize that the crunching leaves may be a little bit much, so I'll try to be respectful. You can see some more cuttings that we have stuck in the ground. And as we come back this way, we have some additional strawberries, some elders. The aronias are about 5.5 to 6 feet spaced, just on the inside. If you see up here, where that guy is, another foot or so in is where the aronias are planted out. And so this should give us, with some of the other plants that we've placed on the outermost edges, it should give us the ability to kind of catch some of the dust that gets kicked up. And these aronias will also, as they're a later berry, there's a good chance that this roadway will not be quite as dry and dusty once those berries are coming in. Always, obviously, you can rinse your berries, and depending on what your bird population is like locally, that may be the best option. So just keep that in mind. But so, we'll get way down in here. You can see the tiny little seedling aronias that we've placed. A little bit of top dressing compost. They do mulch the leaves, and so I did let her know that she can come back in and pile more leaves on and keep going with it. And so we have some clethras. We've left the pots as just a little visual notification so that I can be sure to kind of include everything. But so I wanted to show you guys this because I think this is really fun. We were kind of running out of space for where to put a few of these bushes, and so this is their little pond. If you go that way, this is a terrible angle. If you go that way, that is a tidal lagoon almost. That inlet comes up to where this dam is here, and they have a little overflow pipe. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, look at this little guy! Guy, girl? Hi, Guy! Oh! You guys know what a sucker I am for the puppers. I know! Oh my gosh, look at your little blockhead! Oh my god! So, over this way, again, apologies for the leaves crunching beneath my feet, but so we were kind of running out of space behind us, but in here is kind of an erosion channel. There are a few little gullies that you can see, this one for sure, and you can just see how it flows in that way. I'm sure you guys can picture the water moving during melt events from this space. But so on this bank here, there were some colonies of some lowbush and what I suspect are a few highbush blueberry varieties. And so, excuse me. And so there were a few highbush and lowbush blueberries. And so what we did is we snuck in a few willows and a handful of elderberry and raspberry cuttings over here as well in that highly ericaceous soil. It was very loamy, it was very rich, and we tried to stage them, for the willow and the elders at least, just uphill of some of these decomposing stumps that you see, just to give them a little bit more organic matter to capitalize on, and that subsoil water holding capacity that we've talked about before. So yeah, it can be a little difficult to see what you've done in a less disturbed planting project, but we'll come back for sure, especially now that I know she's got that pup. And we'll come back in the spring and maybe even in the summer and see how these things are coming along. But yeah, I hope that that's informative for you guys. It was a lot of fun to do a planting project where it's not something where I'm 100% sure where I want to put things. I don't think I've had a single project where I'm 100% sure where I want to put things. But it's nice to do a gardening project on a space I am less familiar with. It feels like a good way to kind of stretch my brain and think about the conditions and practice some of those early successional techniques that I've been showing you in other videos on the channel. So I hope this has been fun. I hope you guys got something out of it. I think it's only been, let's check the time. It's 1:29. I got here at about 10:30, so Cyndy and I have been hanging out, chatting, stopping, recording over, doing stuff for maybe 3 hours, but we've planted 30-40 plants and haven't upset the trees at all. And yeah, it doesn't have to be high stress. She thought this was going to be several days of project, and nope. We just have a great little garden that's going to come in real strong next year. So, until next time, everybody, thanks for watching. Happy planting.